I can't really do a historical devotional of characters of the American Revolution without talking about perhaps the best known and loved American who has ever lived here in America. I wonder if you can guess who. You've seen his picture on every dollar you've spent for years. Every time you buy a paper, a candy bar, or perhaps play a commercial computer game, you spend one of those quarters with his image on it. Our district capital is named in his honor, and one of our 50 states is named after him. The first United States postage stamp for years had his face on them. It was said of him that he was first in war, first in peace, and first in the hearts of his countrymen. That's right, George Washington. For over 100 years, he was the hero of young people. Boy, what a difference from today's heroes. George Washington has been called the father of our country by most Americans. He was born February 22nd, 1732 in Virginia. Washington loved his dad Augustine very much, and both his dad and his mother Mary, as well as his brother Lawrence, helped to educate him. Besides doing homeschooling, he was a good, hard worker and did many farm chores around the Westmoreland County estate. Much of his growing up was based on the Bible as a rule book of life. By the time he was 21, Washington was already heading on the road to success. You see, my young friends, success does not come by chance, but by hard work and godly living. Washington wrote several prayers in a little book called Daily Sacrifice when he was 21 years old. Listen to this one. Let my heart, therefore, gracious God, be so affected with the glory and majesty of thine honor, that I may not do my own works, but wait on thee, and discharge those weighty duties which you require of me. Yes, Washington depended on God throughout his life, and the Lord protected him in many, many ways. When George Washington was placed in command of the Continental Army in 1775, he had no training and little experience as a field general, although no one questioned his bravery. He'd never commanded more than a few hundred men. He knew little about military strategy, and frequently in early battles, he made many mistakes that cost lives and victories. Fortunately, the general was skilled at adapting and being led by the Holy Spirit. He was also a great man of determination. When he began his command in the fall of 1776 at the Battle of Kips Bay, New York, his army turned and ran before the enemy even drew near. Despite Washington's attempt to rally them, his men fled, leaving him to cry out to the Lord, "Are these the men with whom I'm to defend America?" But they were the only men he had, and in the coming months he turned them into an effective fighting force by putting his limited military experience to work, adding what he had already learned in books, and trusting the Lord. Washington developed strategies suited to the American wilderness. He used the forests as his base from which to launch surprise attacks. He built elaborate earthworks and fortifications. He took advantage of rugged terrain to make quick and unexpected marches. His mobile fighting force soon learned how to retreat before superior British enemy forces. Washington also knew that every British soldier put out of action was a victory for the Americans. It would take many, many weeks before a wounded or captured soldier could be replaced from England. And so he waited patiently before attacking, and then he did so only when he could see clear gain. Above all, Washington was a strict disciplinarian. He refused to allow cowardice and dishonesty, gambling and cursing. Deserters were flogged, traitors were hung on the spot. He was never content to sit in a tent miles from the scene of battle, issuing orders. No, he led his men personally, and by doing so, he won their respect and the heart of his nation. Much more could be said about George Washington, but I feel that it would be best for you yourself to read a book about him. I would like to recommend one called George Washington the Christian by William Johnson. As these stories unfold, may they continue to inspire you to be a great man or woman of God for this nation.